back to the Ben Baker Show, everybody. I'm Ben Baker. I'm here with a special guest, Ryan Hartwig. He's the former Facebook contractor and whistleblower. He also is the author of a book, Behind the Mask of Facebook. Ryan, welcome to the show. It's good to have you. I was really excited that you reached out to us because I have so many questions.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Absolutely. So can you kind of give the audience a brief introduction to your book? Really excited to hear about it.
Yeah, so I've been working on this book since like August, roughly. And just, and we'll go into how I got to where I am. But we basically went public as a whistleblower last June of 2020. And then, shortly after that, started working on the book. So it's Behind the Mask of Facebook, a whistleblower's shocking story of big tech bias and censorship. And my co-author is Kent Hecken Lively. But yeah, and the book really, it's basically me like analyzing everything I saw for 2 years while working for Facebook. So I was, just to give you an idea, I was deleting posts, stories, videos on Instagram and Facebook for 2 years. So I really studied their policy in depth for 2 years. So that's what the book is about. It's about all these exceptions that Facebook gave for their for their policy. And basically I showed with more than 40 examples that they really truly are biased against conservatives. It's not just a Republican talking point, although it's good political ammunition, but it's the truth. So
and see, that's where I think people get confused, right? Like, they feel like and even on the far left, they feel like they're doing something, like they're a part of something, but they don't understand that they're infringing on people's rights, right?
Right.
So tell me about the environment at Facebook. Do you feel like it's inherently biased to conservatives, and like what's the vibe with working with? I know you said you worked for a contractor company. You tell me.
Yeah, so I was working for Cognizant as a content moderator on behalf of Facebook. So Cognizant had a 3-year, $200 million contract with Facebook. The environment there, it's a little bit different because we weren't in San Francisco. So the culture, I was working in Phoenix. The culture is a little bit different. So, it was a fairly diverse group. When I first started, I was one of 2 white guys. I was working in the Spanish queue. So primarily Hispanics. And then I transferred about halfway through. I transferred to the North American side. So, pretty diverse workforce. Honestly, there were people on the policy team, and I noticed that most of the people on the policy team at Cognizant were more left-leaning. But overall, I had coworkers who were conservative. There were 2 guys who I worked with that were military veterans, and you see them in the Project Veritas video. So fairly diverse at our level, but the people making the decisions that higher up, they were definitely more in a bubble in San Francisco and more left-leaning.
So with that environment, you'd say that, were they pretty aggressive with their, I guess, ideology? Could you feel it in the sense of the material, the onboarding process of, when you guys started to work with Facebook?
So when I first got hired, obviously I didn't notice because I was hired by Cognizant. They didn't really ask. Well, they can't by law ask your political ideology. But once you're already an employee, as far as promotions, I did see, in general, workplaces try to be, diverse. And, here we are in June, Pride Month. So obviously I feel like in general, American companies try to, they try to promote people who are, diverse with their gender and
right. Like, so let's call it what it is. We're trying to appeal to as much of people as we can. And, it's with the media, of course, you're going to get good positive media if you're leaning toward their kind of political left ideology. And so a lot of people kind of tend to go that direction just because they feel, I'll get media attention, I'll get money, those kind of things.
And in the workplace, if you're a hiring manager and you someone's LGBTQ and you don't promote them, then in the back of your mind, you're like, well, are they going to, file a discrimination lawsuit against me or submit a complaint? So, that's always in the back of people's heads too.
That shouldn't even be there. Like, you shouldn't even have to feel that way. You should be able to, things should be based off of, the quality of work that you're producing, and not, what your sexual preference is, or your skin color, or things like that, right?
Yeah, and there's plenty of capable individuals who happen to be LGBTQ, and their merits and their performance, they deserve promotions. And I had many coworkers who were very capable, but the issue is, and this is something that happened, 3 years ago, actually, when I was working there during Pride Month. Facebook rolled out a PowerPoint, a training. Hey guys, want to let you know that's Pride Month. Look out for hate speech towards LGBT. I'm fine with that. But then they said, hey, we're going to carve out an exception and allow attacks against straight white males. And so you can say, so you can say straight white males are filth for not supporting LGBT. That's the one thing you can say. So it's like that's the whole point of hate speech is you're supposed to protect people. And it's the last time I checked, straight white male was still a political, still a sexual identity.
It is. You're absolutely right, which is really confusing that would be even something that they would say. Like it's going against their basic fundamental beliefs when it comes to that. And it does feel like there's a lot of anti-white stuff going on in the world, and that's just sad. Being in the military myself, I was able to work with a lot of different people, and it's a very multicultural environment in the Navy. And so I can tell you firsthand that America is not racist. It is just not. We have so many wonderful people. We all loved each other. We all would have died for each other, right?
Yeah.
But we talk about Facebook, and there was a time when Greta Thunberg, she was kind of a big deal, right? She seemed that the press would call her the Joan of Arc, and like she could do no wrong. You couldn't criticize her or anything like that. You talk about this in your book. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, there's a whole chapter about it in my book. Let me find the name of the chapter, because it mentions the Joan of Arc thing. The title of the chapter is in chapter 5 is Greta Thunberg. The press can call her Joan of Arc, but you cannot criticize her.
That's it.
So she's kind of like the darling of the left. I mean, it's kind of interesting how she rose to prominence, and I think she started out just in Sweden at some local protests, environmental protests, and then maybe got some national attention there, and then became global. But so people were I think you remember a couple of years ago when she went to the UN, she gave that speech, how dare you?
How dare you? I remember all of it. It was very serious.
And then she was kind of glaring at Trump. Trump walked by, and then Trump, I think, tweeted, she's a very happy child or something like that. Very happy person.
Right. And I mean, I probably would have said the same thing. I mean, it's just like, that was very deep, like for a child to go there, and even I felt like there was this issue where people kind of just went along with what she was saying, because she was young, and they exploited it. She was a child. Let's exploit this child and put her all over the place and stuff. And that was just my own kind of view that I felt like was going on. But did Facebook have any like policies or anything that suppressed negative stuff toward her? Or?
Yeah, so people were attacking her. They were calling her retarded, and keeping in mind that she does have Asperger's. That's you can maybe interpret that as an attack on her autism, but she's a public figure. I mean, regardless of whether it's her deciding it or her handlers, she's a public figure. She's out there in the public domain. So Facebook has a policy for dealing with minors who are public figures. So you look at like Jojo Siwa, that dancer, or like Maddie Ziegler, other people, or Justin Bieber 10 years ago. So they were public figures.
They wreck him.
And so, Facebook does have a policy. So you can't say sexual things about public figures that are minors, but you can call them dumb. You can call Jojo Siwa dumb, and things like that. So Facebook made an exception to their own policy, and they said, we're not going to allow any instance of calling her retarded or retarded. And so they literally had their AI scour their platform, and they fed all those jobs into our queue. So for a week solid, like practically everything I was reviewing was a post attacking Greta, and I had to delete it. So Facebook can prioritize what they delete, and they made an exception to their global policy to give additional protections to Greta Thunberg.
So let me ask you, when you were reviewing a lot of this stuff, do you feel like there was an attack on our First Amendment rights, just being a patriot in general? This seems like there's a lot of people that love our flag. Can you speak up a little bit about that? How did they treat people like that? Or very patriotic, might even be Trumpers, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. That's a good question. So, I mean, to start with, we had a bullying slang list. So they gave us guidance on, typical words we would come across, whether we should delete them or allow them. So calling someone, so I'm just going to name some attacks, and you just think about how someone would use that attack. So I can call someone a feminazi, I could call someone a Nazi, a Trump humper, or snowflake. So think about those 4 words. Right. So 2 of those are attacks on Trump supporters. So Trump humper, and then they like to call them Nazis as well. Right. Now, there's a part of the policy that protects people against negative character claims. If I call Ben a douchebag, or if I call someone a bad name, then I can delete that on Facebook. Like if you see that on Facebook, you can report it and it gets taken down. But Facebook made an exception, and they said, Trump humper and Nazi, we're going to allow that. Even if Ben reports that himself, we're going to leave that up no matter what. Absolutely no way to get it taken down. But if you call Ben a feminazi or a snowflake, that's bad. We're gonna delete that. So it's just a double standard. So as far as free speech rights, I was looking for this quote from a coworker. Yeah. So I was having this discussion, and this is in the appendix where I had these informal conversations with my coworkers that I recorded. So we were talking about that, the free speech rights, and he said, we're not, as a content moderator, she said, we're not infringing on your First Amendment rights because you're on Facebook. You don't have First Amendment rights. You have Facebook speech rights.
Wow.
Like he literally said, you don't have First Amendment rights on Facebook. You have Facebook speech rights.
I mean, that right there is just, that's against our Bill of Rights. That's against the First Amendment right there. Like, yeah. Wow, that's incredible that they would even say that. I'm stunned right now. Jeez.
And that's the problem, is people always say, oh, they're a private company. I hate that argument, because there's like, okay, so if you're a private company, you can do whatever the freak you want, right? So if you're an oil company, you can just dump your oil in the sea.
Yeah, right. Like you're a private company, so you can do whatever you want. You don't need to have any type of regulation. I can't remember the law, but there's a law that's protecting them from a lot of this stuff, from being sued for this kind of stuff. And it's like, It's ridiculous. They are as big as a government, right? So they have the ability to sway people's opinion nationally, globally, really. Mm-hmm. And so, when you get that big, there's a reason why in the past we've, as the government has, intervened and broken up companies, it's to stop that kind of stuff, right? I mean, they're almost like, and really bigger than some countries. Facebook is bigger than some countries out there. They have more sway, and so it's a very serious issue. And again, I really appreciate you being here and being able to talk to everybody about this stuff. I was thinking the other day, Facebook's treatment of Antifa and police officers and drug cartels and stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So so Antifa, obviously, we know that. I mean, despite what the media would want you to believe, they are organized. They plan protests. I think they don't have a hierarchy or leadership on purpose to avoid targeting by law enforcement. But we had instructions back in, I believe, 2018. I have a post screenshot that I filmed that says, at that time there were a bunch of nationwide protests, and the post from Facebook said, giving us instructions, was basically saying there are unconfirmed links between these protests and Antifa, and it's like these major protests in 9 cities simultaneously. Like someone has to organize that, and so the Facebook specifically said Antifa is not a hate organization. So at the same time, Proud Boys is, but Antifa is not. Like, how can you not treat them the same? I mean, they both cause, let's be honest, like Proud Boys, and we can have another discussion about that. But yeah, do they go to show up? Do fights happen between the two? Yeah. So they should both be held accountable for if they do cause problems.
Yeah, one of the things I saw, like because I read a part of your book, and it was basically saying that, as long as Facebook classified it as, they were out there protesting, then that was okay, right? So if they classified it as protests, it would basically allow more of this, crazy, rampant, Antifa stuff to kind of go on and organize and stuff, because they're just protesting, right?
Yeah.
So
it's how they classify it. And once they classify the Proud Boys or Gavin McInnes as a dangerous org, dude, like that's insane. So in this policy, you have, you literally have terrorist organizations. Like we would delete posts from Al Qaeda, from all that in the Middle East, and being in the Navy, how serious those groups are.
Yeah,
and
huge.
Yeah, so they're a threat. So it makes sense to put them on this list. But in that same policy, you have terrorists, you have racist groups, but you also have on that same list like Gavin McInnes, the founder of Proud Boys. Now, what this means is I can now say about Proud Boys or any leader of the Proud Boys or Gavin McInnes, I can literally call for his death, and Facebook gave an exception to allow that. So I can literally say we should kill Gavin McInnes. Stays up all day.
Wow, I can't believe that. Well, I mean, and we see that, right, with Twitter and stuff. Tim Scott, they were calling him Uncle Tim and just blasting him. And Tim is just an amazing man. And for him to be attacked like that, and it's just ridiculous. And they leave it up, right, for hours. Yeah. And by the time they do ever, intervene or take those things down, the damage is done. Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think we saw some of that with the guy in Minnesota, the kid, I forget his name. Gosh, it's tip of my tongue. Kyle, the kid, the 17-year-old or 18-year-old who shot two people.
Yeah. I can't remember his name, but
I'll remember in a second. I think I should remember that. But anyways, my theory is that he was categorized as a mass murderer in that same policy of dangerous individuals and organizations. So kind of in the same category as a terrorist. And that's why all the fundraisers, Kyle Rittenhouse. So that's my theory as to why all this fundraiser got shut down. But yeah, Antifa, police, as far as the police angle. So if Facebook had a policy where, in general, if I post a photo of you, Ben, like in your military uniform, right, as a soldier, and I say that soldier is a pig, right? Well, it has your face there. Technically, you're still a private individual. You're not public. So I should be, if anybody reports that, I can take it down. Now, Facebook did something where they changed that, but just for cops. So if I'm walking down the street and I see a cop doing an arrest, I take a picture of him, that effing cop is a pig, right?
Right.
It's comparison to an animal. So Facebook said, well, because of how the term is used in the North American market, we're making an exception, and that is no longer a violation. So you essentially put flames on that fire of those attacks on cops, putting their lives at risk, fomenting more hate. So they love to talk about how they protect the world from hate speech.
Right.
And there goes my light again. I'm going to have to figure that out.
So tell me about how, Facebook prevents public relation disasters and kind of shields accounts from deletion.
Yeah. So I ran across this kind of happenstance, and I wish I could have done some more digging on it. And but yeah, I found some shields that they shield certain accounts. So accounts can be verified. We know that, like the blue check marks and all that. But there's also something called a shield, and there's some other shields. So the information so there's different kinds of so it's called Fire Brigade. So there's something called Fire Brigade where you can imagine if you're a business owner and if you're Facebook and you have good customers who are paying a lot of money in marketing and whatnot, you don't want to accidentally delete their account or have their account taken down.
It could cost you a bunch of money.
Yeah. So there's different tags. So there's like a high pry IPX check. There's a mid pry. There's a media ops high pry protection level. You mentioned you do media and marketing.
Correct.
So media ops high pry protection. You wouldn't want to accidentally delete, the Navy's like a public Facebook page or something.
Right.
So the policy.
But you can delete Donald Trump though. You can delete him, the president.
Yeah, you can take the whole. You take him off the platform.
Right. He obviously missed that tag a little bit.
Yeah, they took off his tag. Yeah, the most well-known person in the world, right?
Yeah, most powerful seat in the world, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can shield him. So First Amendment, let's not worry about that. It's just a Bill of Rights. That's all.
Don't worry. We sent it to our independent oversight board. Oh, and by the way, our oversight board, in their bylaws, it's written that everything is confidential. So we don't know how they came to that decision. You just have to trust them. They're independent, though. They're
like, we should be able to go in there and get all that information. I mean, that's just crazy. The fact that they do that, it's like their own. I'm telling you, it feels like they're operating their own government, and it's
I think
wild.
That's a good analogy. Like, I literally, a quick side note. Well, yeah. I mean, the oversight board just decided to keep Trump banned. I'm like, it's been 5 months since the election. I can understand maybe January 10th. Okay, we want a peaceful transition. All right, take him off for a couple of weeks. But now, what's the risk? The only risk is political, right?
Oh, it's absolutely political. Think about it. I think they banned it for like 2 years, right? So
I think they might review it at some point. I don't know the time frame, but
well, let's just say I'm pretty sure it's 2 years. When I was looking at it. That's 2022. Let's limit his voice until after these other elections kind of go down and stuff. That's exactly what it is. It's politically motivated. So they can try to say whatever they want to say and not even tell us because they're operating like their own government. But we know, the people know. People are smart, right? I feel like even the silent majority is starting to wake up. They're starting to see a lot of this stuff going on, and they're starting to speak up. And that's the whole reason why I started this show. Is just I was just a guy. I did media and advertising for a living and stuff, but I got tired of seeing all this rampant corruption in our left, in our media, in big tech, and even government. It's like it's everywhere, right?
Yep.
And to be a conservative, to love your country. I'm a patriot. I believe in patriots. And for people to treat us this way, it's our forefathers are rolling in their graves.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I mean, the protections where it's just a double standard where they can just pick and choose the winners and losers. Like this media protection thing. Let me just read this real quick.
Yeah.
So they said this content belongs to a user or page identified by media operations as a business partner and therefore cannot be actioned. If you believe this content violates policy, you can escalate to Fire Brigade for review. So yeah, it's a way to protect people. So
when it came to human resources in your book, I believe there's a title that says "Human Resources from Hell," right? Which is hilarious. It makes me want to just go through that whole chapter. But punishment for exercising my First Amendment rights. Tell me what happened, dude. Like,
So it makes it going down. What makes it even funnier is the HR person, Natasha Nice, who's mentioned there and who's filmed. I actually I didn't really know her. Like, she was kind of like I knew of her in high school. Like, so random, right?
Right.
But so I'm working for Cognizant. So we work with Facebook, and we use their tools. Like, we have the browser that's it's called SRT, and that's where we review content. That's where we have our chats. So it's all through Facebook's tools. So January 2020 or January. And I'm talking to my coworkers, and you got to understand, man, we have the craziest conversations. Like, HR has got to be like pulling out their hair, because as it is, we're already talking about nudity, pornography all day, because that's what we see on our screen. Hey, is that an erection, or is that nudity? Is that penetration? Like, we literally talk about that with our coworkers.
Right. Oh, I'm sure. So, yeah, that's crazy too. It's like it's pretty wild.
So that's the environment. So we have conversations about religion, and like everything's. We can talk about everything because we see hate speech, attacks on religion, the really bad memes that are like attacks on the Boston Marathon bombing, just horrible stuff. But anyway, so I share a link to a few coworkers actually, of a Los Angeles Times article from 2015, and I'm on the cover of LA Times holding a Charlie Hebdo cartoon, and I'm outside of a mosque in Phoenix. So this was, to give you context, this is 4 months after the Charlie Hebdo, and like a month after these two guys from Phoenix tried to go to Texas to kill some people who were drawing Muhammad. So, because that's important. You got to protect your religion and kill people who draw your profit, right?
Right.
Uh, um, so, and I want to make clear, I'm not talking about Muslims in general. I'm talking about radical Islamic extremists, right?
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you point that out. And so you were punished.
So I share this link to my coworker. I literally just share the link. I said nothing about Muslims, and he reports to HR, goes up the food chain, and I get called in out of the blue late January, and I'm happened to be filming that day when I get pulled in with Natasha, and she's like, "Hey, what you shared was advocating for violence and discriminatory in nature." I'm like, "So the LA Times is discriminatory?" Because all I did was share the link to the LA Times, and I'm holding a sign from guys who got slaughtered by radical Islamic extremists. So you tell me what's violent, advocating for violence in that picture. So yeah, I got in trouble. I got a corrective action. I didn't get fired at that point, but the contract was going to end like a month from then. So, but it did, if I was to stay on with Cognizant, it would have jeopardized my chances of transfer to another part of the company. But yeah, that's how I got in trouble. Yeah.
I'm sorry that happened to you. So I got to ask, you came forward as a Facebook whistleblower. Where did this moment of patriotism begin for you? I mean, how long did it take you to kind of come forward? I mean, you had been kind of fighting with yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, that first year I worked there, I started in March of 2018 with doing that for Facebook. And so after about a year, like I know, like that in that first year, the Pride Month thing came up on my radar. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird, allowing attacks on certain genders. And then I noticed a few things where they're kind of suppressing videos that would show, create empathy for Trump. And so after a year, I'm like, maybe I should start like writing these down. And it seems like a trend. And so I wrote down about 19 examples, wrote a letter to a couple of politicians, didn't really hear back, or maybe I was just impatient. And that's when I decided to reach out. So it was to reach out to Project Veritas.
Right.
Excuse me. So I think it was just I think I just wanted the public to know what was going on behind the scenes. I mean, this was 2018, 2019, leading up to the election.
Right.
And so I don't know, just, you think, okay, well, I'm one content moderator, but there's 1,000 of us there at the office. Right. And then we review 200 posts a day. Yeah. So you got hundreds of thousands of voices being suppressed on this platform. So that's really what prompted me to come forward.
That's incredible. I mean, to actually be in the seat and see it happening. I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, I would have done the exact same. Absolutely. So, I applaud you for doing that and coming out and helping, spread, the truth. You're getting the truth out about these organizations that literally think that they can just that they're above the law and they can just do whatever they want. Yeah. That's not the case, you guys. Yeah. We live in America. We have rights, and we are entitled to those rights. So, good work on you for doing that.
Thank you.
But it took you about a year to come out about it. And
yeah, I mean, after a year, I'd kind of, I wasn't there to out Facebook. I mean, I was there it was a good job. I had good health benefits, right. And
Yeah. Tell me about that. I mean, was that kind of scary to think that, that you could possibly lose your job and benefits and, for your family and all that? I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it was really good health insurance. I mean, Cognizant's a Fortune 200 company. They have 200,000 employees, a lot in the US, a lot in India. So yeah, we had really good health benefits. I wasn't making that much money, but my costs of living were pretty low with my wife, and now we have a child on the way. So it's interesting because I just started a job 3 months ago, but now I can't use that. I haven't been there a year, so I can't use the parental leave thing. So. Right. It is nice to stay with one company. And prior to that job, I'd kind of bounced around with a few jobs, and this one my wife really did like. So something we talked about, and but it was pretty rough.
And you no longer work for that company, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So we all got laid off in February of 2020, February 28th, 2020. So the whole project ended. Cognizant ended the contract prematurely with Facebook. So it was supposed to go through the fall of that year. They ended it early. And so yeah, I never got caught filming with hidden camera and didn't get fired, which would from a PR perspective.
How convenient though to get laid off early though. Everybody got laid off. So
it was convenient, and it helped because people.
There's a lot of convenient things that happen on the left. I don't know if you noticed that. There's a lot of convenience, a lot of timely things that happen. So
like the
it's easy for us to think about that, as conservatives or even independents. I'm an independent myself, and I lean conservative now because of the way things have been going. I was a pretty devout Democrat, believe it or not, and I switched over and I became more. As soon as I started seeing what was going on and becoming knowledgeable about it, that was the lack. It was the lack of knowledge and education that I believe me or not, made me a Democrat. As soon as I started becoming more knowledgeable about it, I was like, oh my gosh, like look at all this crazy stuff that's going on. And I noticed it just on my own. I didn't have any, I wasn't into the QAnon stuff. I didn't listen to, I wasn't like a super Trumper or anything like that. I just happened to, see everything in the media and the news and stuff, and I'm a strategist by heart, and so I see things and I kind of it's like I can see into the future almost when it comes to this kind of stuff, and and it freaks me out because I know kind of like where the direction of this country is going if we don't check these companies. Right.
No, and I had coworkers like that too. I don't think I'll be able to find it right now, but I had a coworker who was very independent politically, and we'd have a conversation. He's like, same thing. He was just like, look, I love to analyze the news. And he was just talking about, some of the bias that he saw. And so there's so much there in that book. Definitely, read the book, guys. You can pre-order it. It's going to be out in August. Cool. Behind the Mask of Facebook. But that and so many examples. I mean, it's pretty mind blowing. Like,
no, I'm excited to check it out. Thank you for that. So do you have any advice for people that might be thinking of coming forward and, being a whistleblower to these big tech and big media and even big government agencies? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the price, and the risk for some people in the government is even higher because, I would have been at that job, a couple of years, but there's some government employees who've been there, 15 years. They're waiting to get their pension. So that
part of that risk, the furniture, right?
Yeah. They'll be like a made man and get their take home cars. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I read a book recently about the Secret Service and how the upper management is just very, very corrupt.
But if people are struggling, do you feel like they should come forward or,
the reward is the reward is worth it. I mean, the fact that you can have an influence on millions of people, like we just had another Project Veritas whistleblower come forward from Facebook. This guy had, has a kid and one kid on the way. I mean, he sacrificed so much. It's 100% worth it. There are ways to receive whistleblower protections if you're a government whistleblower. No, for me, it was 100% worth it. I was able to, for 6 months after coming forward, I was able to speak to people internationally, like throughout the world, about my experience. And even now I have legislators from different countries like Argentina, Brazil, reach out to me for opinions and advice. The world is suffering. Like the world is suffering the censorship. It's not just a US problem. Like it is worldwide. And that's what's scary about Facebook is they have their tentacles everywhere. So if you're on the inside somewhere with, in big tech or anywhere else for that matter, go public. There's a lot of great journalists out there who are willing to publish your story.
I really appreciate you coming on our show, Ryan. I know it's you had to go through a lot, and it was very intense, and and I'm sure that you really stuck your neck out there for everybody so they could see what was going on, and it's people like that, it's patriots like that help spread our message, that help expose the corruption in these major companies, and even in our government. And without you guys, we're going to be lost. The country will be lost, and we need you guys. We need you guys to speak up. You can reach out to Project Veritas. You can reach out here at the Ben Baker Show. We'll be happy to have you on and just hear your voice. We know it's being suppressed. We're trying to help get that out. We want to publish our stuff all over the place and become multi-platform. We've got a few platforms right now, but we are planning on growing it. And we'll do everything we can on our end to help kind of push you guys forward and help you succeed as well. And so again, Ryan, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And for the audience, if you're interested in Ryan's book and you want to check it out, we are going to put the link in the post on our Instagram page as well as other places. We'll make sure that we get that message out there, and that people can hear what you have to say, Ryan. So thank you.
Yeah, no, and thank you, Ben, for also, taking the time out of your schedule. And I know you're not, so the people know you're not some big influencer. You're just someone who cares about the truth and wants to get it out there. So
I'm just a regular guy. I'm just like everybody else. I literally started this show going, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know if it even matters. You know what I mean? I have a lot of people follow me, and they continue to follow me every day. And I think it's just because they're upset too. They see the stuff that's going on. They just want to vent. I've spoken with hundreds of patriots already. And that's the whole thing, right? Is I want to get those patriots words out there. But many are scared. They're afraid to come forward and how they'll be viewed. A lot of these people have, leftist family members and friends and stuff. And they know that as soon as they come out, that they're potentially going to lose them, because I don't know if you've seen this, but with the left, it's pretty radical where, when somebody goes against them, it's almost a culty kind of feel where, they just, okay, you're done, boom, block. I've lost friends over this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's that culture that's really, really negative. And so, we need more people like you to come forward, and myself and other whistleblowers to come forward. So
I keep going back to when I was younger, and when it was like back in the early 80s. And I was just a boy, but, I had the strongest sense of patriotism. Ronald Reagan was president. It didn't feel like any of this stuff was going on. Everybody was kind of very patriotic, and it was all about patriotism. Everybody loved it. And I feel like we've lost that in our country, and that people are reaching out and they're trying to grab a hold of, something, right? Anything, whether it's ACAB or Antifa or Black Lives Matter or something, they're just trying to grab a hold of something to be a part of some kind of change and cause. But I'm telling you guys out there, if you're confused and you're looking for something to get behind, you need to get behind patriotism. You need to get behind our country, because that is what the fabric of this nation was built upon. We are the last free place on this earth, and we need you. So the spirit of patriotism is alive and well. We just need to wake up, show up, and stand up. So thanks again to everybody. Ryan, thank you. And I'm Ben Baker. This is the Ben Baker Show. We'll continue to put these videos out and see what happens.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks.